Hi, welcome back to Worm Watts, where we harness the God-given power of compost worms to transform organic waste into amazing living fertilizer. Today we are back at our Bokashi and fermentation series, working on creating our own Bokashi Bran. And it's been 2 weeks since we inoculated our wood chips, or not wood chips, sawdust rather, with the whey that we had gathered from our fermented milk. And so it's been in here for 2 weeks in this bag and inside of this tote to keep the light away and to kind of keep the conditions ideal for fermentation. And so we're going to go ahead and open this up, take a sniff, and see how it did. The hope is that the sawdust will have actually fermented within this bag here, and that we can then utilize it as Bokashi Bran, that it will have been colonized by the microbes, specifically the lactobacillus bacteria, and that we can then utilize it to ferment our food scraps using the Bokashi method. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this bag and let's take a look at what's inside. All right, so here we are. Here's our bag. The smell is kind of interesting. I'm not smelling what I would expect, but it's different because of I've never done this with sawdust before. So I'm going to pick some up and... Interesting. I don't know if... It doesn't have a yeasty or a sour smell to it, but it's in there and it's been there for 2 weeks. So we're going to go ahead and... At this point, I'm going to go ahead and dry this. So the goal, if it has been colonized, would be to then dry the sawdust so that it can be used, stored for long-term storage. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to one side and then bring over some of these tote lids that I have here. And I use those as my drying racks. And I'll go ahead and get a dustpan and use that to just kind of scoop this out of the bag and spread it here on this tote lid. All right, we've got our dustpan. I'm gonna put that in there and then use that to try to grab as much of this as we can. And we'll sprinkle it out here. And I may just use the bag and just pour it at this point. I think that'll be a little bit more efficient because I think this tote lid can take quite a bit. Let's go ahead and pour some out from the bag. We don't want the layer to be too thick, the layer of sawdust, but that might have been a little bit too much, but we'll adjust it. And if need be, I can pour some of the excess onto another cover, another lid. All right, now we're just going to spread it out. Make sure that it has access to enough air to be able to efficiently dry. And I do have a lid right underneath it. I'm going to go ahead and distribute some of that onto this second lid. Sorry for blocking your view. Okay. All right. So there is our second lid. And the first one, I think at this point has sufficient space for you can kind of see it now, This is the first one. Looks decently spread out to me. So I'll set that here. And this one, I think, can take a little bit more, but let's spread this out first and see how it does. I've got a few what look like fruit flies flying around, so I think that's promising. I'm hoping that the smell is what's drawing them in, and that means that there's microbial activity that is producing a desirable smell for them. So the second one also looks sufficiently spread out, so I'm happy with that. All right, now this is onto our third lid. Getting the bag back, and just pour some more of the inoculated sawdust onto there. And I think we have 4 lids for this. I think that'll be just enough to give it a nice spread. And I'm trying to break up the clumps where I find them. There are not a lot of clumps, but where I find them, we do want to break those up. This one is a little bit thicker as far as the amount that I have here. Is a little bit thicker than some of the other trays, but it's on there as well. I will set that down and then see how much, see if I have any excess space on the last lid. All right, and I'm going to spread this out as well. Found a clump right there. You can kind of see it holding together pretty well, but it also falls apart to light pressure. And we just want to break those up to make it easier for it to dry. And once dry, the bacteria will basically be inactive, and they will be able to be reactivated when it is exposed to moisture again. So that's the magic, if you will, of Bokashi Bran. And so I've got it here. I didn't have enough gaps in this lid to be able to distribute and thin out the sawdust like I would have liked to, but I think it'll be fine. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably, from day to day, I'll probably come back through and just turn this just to make sure that it gets to dry efficiently. So let me see if I have a 5th lid. If I do, that would even be better. All right, so I do have a 5th lid. Unfortunately, this one has holes in it, but I don't think that the holes will be enough to prevent this from, or I don't think the holes are big enough that we'll have a lot of loss. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this from this tray and from the previous tray, just to thin it out and make it easier and quicker for it to dry. So I'm gonna add a little bit more here. And at this point, this tray, if I can tilt it for you, seems thinned out enough sufficiently that I think it'll dry a little bit faster. And now, I'm going to get our 3rd tray and do the same thing. Just thin it out. And we're gonna spread out the 3rd tray again. Looks a lot better. Still kind of thick, but I think it'll work for the time being. And now, I'm going to put these two side by side, running out of hands. All right, and we'll go ahead and focus over here. I'll go ahead and spread this one out on this tray. Again, I think we'll lose a little bit, but not a lot, to those holes. And you can tell it's finally spread out there. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and find some shelves for each of these trays, and let them sit there. They'll probably dry for, I would imagine, close to a week before they're sufficiently dry. We're not in the heat of summer anymore. The high-end temperatures have kind of cooled down to like the mid to high 80s. So it may not take up to a week, but I think we'll probably give it about 4 to 5 days at the very least, with us checking on it regularly and trying to turn it just to make sure that we get this nice and dried. So let me go ahead and take these to the location they'll be sitting in, and then I'll give you a little shot of that. All right, so these are 3 of the trays on this little rack right here. And I've got the other 2 on a similar tray in the same area. So we're gonna be leaving them here, letting them dry out here, and we'll be checking on them regularly just to make sure that they get the proper exposure to air that they need. So this is our Bokashi Bran. I'm hoping that it has really taken and that it'll be effective. So let's see what it looks like in a few days. Thanks for watching, and thanks for following this journey as we explore how to make our own Bokashi Bran and how to ferment food scraps for our compost worms. See you next time.